Hey Cody, the video's starting.
Oh.
Welcome to Photography Genius. You may not be an expert in ISO, but you can be a genius.
What is ISO?
ISO is the sensitivity of the camera to the light. As you take your camera and you put the film or the digital sensor, today we use digital sensors primarily, but how sensitive is it to the light? Now if we're shooting in ideal situations, photography utopia, we will use the lowest ISO possible, typically 100 or maybe 200 on your nice fancy camera. As we raise the number to a higher number, 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, 6400, 12,800, etc., the number continues to go up. The quality of the picture, the colors and the contrast will not look as good. So the quality will deteriorate. Even on really good cameras, even on expensive cameras. We don't want to raise the ISO too much or we'll have quality issues. Think of it like this. If my picture is too dark, and I can't have a slower shutter speed, or I can't open up my lens anymore, I have to raise the ISO. Not best situation, but sometimes there are compromises in photography where we have to raise the ISO, sacrifice quality, to make sure that the picture is not blurry.
What is noise?
Yes, that is noise, but that's not the noise we're talking about. Digital camera noise is kind of a raised quality loss with these little spots, jittery chunks. It looks like little spots throughout your camera. We call it noise or camera noise. It's not desirable in most things. Now in the old days, if you had a film camera and you had a piece of film, you would have a higher or a lower number, and a higher number ISO would have larger pieces of silver on this film. And what that would do, that would allow you to be more sensitive to have a picture in a darker environment. Now the ways that the film would be put together would have random sizes of the silver. And that would actually have a nice aesthetic. It would be aesthetically pleasing. Now if you really like to have that grain size on your noise, you can actually add that into Photoshop or Lightroom or other camera software programs. You can add that in post later. But we really want to keep the ISO at a low number to avoid the digital noise, which is not desirable by any means.
How high should you raise your ISO?
That depends on your type of camera that you have. Now, all cameras are not created equal. There's bigger sensors and smaller sensors. You might have heard the term of full-frame camera. A full-frame camera has a bigger sensor than your typical cell phone or a little itty-bitty type of pocket phone or a point-and-shoot. The larger sensor, or even some digital SLR sensors that are a little bit smaller, will have less sensitivity and ability to go to a higher number because they will show more noise. Now, if you have a good quality camera, let's say the example of the Canon 5D, the original Canon 5D from 2008. If I was to take that camera today and put it next to a new cell phone, it would actually probably not do very good in terms of noise because the new cell phone is much more newer in technology. It'd be like great grandpa.
Like you?
Not exactly. So the camera technology, if you have an old camera, maybe 4 or 5 generations older, will not be able to have the technology quality. It will have more noise than if you had the same ISO. So ISO in your camera is not apples to apples. It depends on the size of your sensor. It also depends on the age or the generation gap of your camera.
Know your camera.
If I had my original Canon 20D, now this is a very old technology. I got it when I was in college, back in the day, not that long ago. An older camera cannot have the sensitivity level because the technology is not as good. The technology is always improving. It's like a sports car. It deteriorates. It loses its value after several years because it just gets old. But if I took this camera and I shot it on something like a 1600 ISO, which is as high as this one would even go, the quality would not even be close to if I shot with a Canon R6 or an R8 or a modern mirrorless camera because the technology is much, much better and the ISO will be less. And I can raise that ISO and shoot in almost pitch darkness and get picture perfect pictures. Some of the newer cameras will allow you to use maybe an ISO 50 maybe an ISO 25, that's really not going to give you a better quality. It's just a way they allow you to have a slower exposure. So if you want to do things like waterfall blurring in the middle of the day, an ISO 50 or a 25 might not be a bad idea, especially if you're using a digital SLR in daylight. And with video, you cannot have a very fast shutter speed or it gives a very different look. So you might want to use ISO 50 or 25 to decrease the sensitivity to the sunlight. Now you can experiment with digital noise reduction software. There are many of them out there between Nick, Photoshop, Lightroom. They have the ability to reduce the noise in there as much. But the problem is when you reduce the noise, it does take more time, more effort on the computer, and nobody likes to sit in front of the computer, and nobody got time for that. It also will take off the sharpness of the image. If you take out the noise to make it look a little crisper, it won't look as good. And the problem is it's going to soften the image. Now make sure you do it at 100% size, because if you see your image at 25% size, or if you see your size in the back of the camera, it might look really, really good. But as soon as you blow it up, as soon as you put it on your camera or on your computer at full size, and 100%, pixel for pixel, you'll notice that the noise is much worse. Personally, I take my ISO on the cameras, like some of these newer cameras, like the Canon R6, the Canon R8, and I bump them up to 6400 ISO, and I don't even think about it. It wasn't even possible too many years ago, but now it is. Know how much you can push it. Hey! Hey!
What does the cheese stick say when he's getting his picture taken?
I don't know, but...
Human.
That's good. Need a quick review? Make sure you go ahead and check out the tape. Just rewind the tape. Not like this kind of tape, but just push it back. Click to see on the video. Just